Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today I'll be going over the melee weapon, the Kronen Prime. So first, let's go over our first and top commenter of the last video. First commenter is going to be Dirt MG, and the top commenter was Arrowside3943. And then we have our recent supporters here of Nice Bear, Colonel Suro 6, and Alfofo. Thank you so much for your support. Unique and interesting things about the Kronen Prime is that you get 10% parkour velocity when wielding this weapon. It also has an above average attack speed, meaning you can choose to not use Berserker Fury for a large attack speed boost, but instead use one of the weaker attack speed mods that give a bonus stat. That would be Gladiator Vice for an extra 110% crit chance, or Magnetic Rush for the magnetic status. Both of these options are fine, but I'll be personally going with the Magnetic Rush. Okay, let's get into the mods. Voltaic Strike for the Electric 6060. This will obviously give you electric, but it's also going to activate the arcane we're going to be using, which is melee influence. Galvanized Steel for crit chance and crit damage. Organ Shatter for crit damage. Gladiator Might for crit chance and crit damage. Condition Overload for flat damage. Magnetic Rush for attack speed and magnetic, but remember in this slot you can also instead go for Gladiator Vice, which will give you attack speed and 110% crit chance if you like that instead. Blood Rush for 440% crit chance, and Weeping Wounds for 440% status chance. In the stance slot there are two options. There's Gemini Cross and Sovereign Outcast. Now, I still suggest you try out both of these and just use the one you like, but between the two, Sovereign Outcast has a much better forward light in terms of damage and movement, and its neutral light has the highest DPS of all Tonfa combos and contains 4/4 slash procs. So that's the one I'm going to be using. In the Tennokai slot, there's two options for the best DPS, and that's going to be Disciple's Merit and Dreamer's Wrath. Disciple's Merit will let you Tennokai slightly more, and Dreamer's Wrath adds extra crit damage to your Tennokai attacks. The Tonfa heavy attacks are kind of average, and the base crit damage of the Kronen Prime is also average, so I don't really think that one of these is way better than the other, so you can kind of pick which of these two you like better. I do still want to give an honorable mention to another mod for the Tennokai slot called Opportunity's Reach. This adds some range to your Tennokai heavies, and most importantly, it gives you a whole 4 seconds to respond and click your Tennokai button when it's available. This is really good for older people or people with bad reflexes. So me personally, I usually like using Opportunity's Reach, although when I do my builds, I always show it off with the top DPS options. And finally, in the Arcane slot, we're going to be going for melee influence to massively increase our kill per minute potential. This is how you build out the Kronen Prime. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, consider leaving a like or subscribing for future content. Okay, so next we have the gameplay portion, and then it's final scoring and ranking. So I'll see you guys again after the gameplay. Okay, so we're starting the gameplay portion with the not the Tonfas, the Kronen Prime, which is a Tonfa. So kind of like when I do ranged weapons, I don't use any externals except on melee weapons. I do use one external, which is going to be a pet priming for me. And it's because pretty much every melee build, except for there's like one or two melee types that don't use condition overload, but pretty much all melees are going to use condition overload. And for condition overload to work, you really need to be priming for it. And just so I have a consistent primer that acts the exact same way every time, I use a pet to do it for me. But he doesn't have any other kind of external buffs on. He doesn't have like Tenacious Bond or anything like that. He's literally just priming. He does a really good job of it though. My Dirija build, he does, I think it's 9 statuses minimum, and then depending on how lucky he gets from Momentous, it's more than that, or maybe it's 8 and then more, I can't remember. But I have my Dirija build on the channel somewhere. It's probably kind of old. It's probably worth redoing eventually. But it's still really good. But yeah, no other externals, no like Roar, no Nourish, nothing like that. So we'll get our 10-minute kill count numbers. We'll do a few 10-minute runs, see what the averages are. Now, melee is a little bit different to ranged because, like, ranged weapons, even like the really, really meta ranged weapons, like, you know, the Torrid and the Boar and Kronen and, you know, the weapons that people know are extremely overpowered. They usually score like 900 to 1,000 kills in 10 minutes. Without externals, of course. With externals, you can do a lot more than that. But without externals, it's like 900 to 1,000. Well, melees are very powerful, and it also could be that on melees I use a primer, but melees, they almost all will score 1,000 or more. Like even bad melee weapons, like even something kind of as memey as the Ghoul Saw will score like 1,000, 1,100 kills in 10 minutes. So it becomes harder to compare them to each other. You know, a better way to compare them to each other would be to do higher level content. But because I do videos every single day, I can't really afford to do, you know, a 2-hour level cap run and hope that I don't have to redo it every single day. But that would technically be the better way to score melees. But to do scoring every day on different weapons, I do my normal, you know, Void Mott. And melees, it's harder because they almost all will be in that 1,000, 1,100 category. So when we score melees, we just simply give them a pass or a fail. If they score about 1,100 and over, it's a pass. That means they're good. And if they score under 1,100, then that'll be a fail or a bad weapon. Now, just because the weapon fails doesn't mean it's bad. Maybe it has just more single target potential, you know, because a lot of these scoring is based on kill per minute values, which is, you know, mostly like trash enemies. A weapon like the Who the Heck, for instance, probably would get an absolutely awful kill per minute score, but it's really good at killing bosses. So, you know, you have to take the scorings with a grain of salt. Pardon the pun. We're at 4 minutes in. We got about another minute, and then we'll go over. I'll cut this in about a minute, and then I'll go over the scores that I got like off screen with the Kronen Prime here, and we'll see how it did. Again, anything about 1,100 and over will be a pass, and anything significantly under 1,100 will be a fail. And of course, give me your guys' opinions too. You know, maybe you have done significant amounts of level cap with the Kronen Prime. You know, where I haven't on this specific weapon, because I don't use this weapon too much compared to others. I really like the Kratos Incarnate. That's one of my favorite Tonkas. Okay, let's we'll cut this here, and then we'll get our scoring. All right, welcome back, guys. So let's go over the 10-minute kill count numbers. The Kronen Prime scored 1,163, 1,092, and 1,023 in its 3 runs, meaning its average is just under 1,100. And like I probably said during the gameplay, melees are harder to judge kill per minute values on because they'll usually reach a cap at about 1,200 kills in 10 minutes. That's actually caused by the enemy spawns rather than the weapon itself. So judging melees, we just give them a pass or a fail rating if they were able to hit about 1,100 or above. So the Kronen Prime will get a pass rating, but not by much. My final take on the Kronen Prime is that it's a good weapon, but then again, almost all melees are good. Even meme melees like the Ghoul Saw can reach these kill per minute numbers. So to really stand out, a melee needs to do something extra maybe have an innate element it gets for free, maybe have a trait that does something significant, maybe have some sort of utility. And unfortunately, all the Kronen really has is a 10% parkour buff that only works while it's actually out. So, you compare that to the Praetos Incarnon, which is also a Tonfa, and that gets a 30% parkour buff that happens all the time, even when it's not currently being used. And so the only real use case I can see is using it as a generic good melee weapon until you unlock and build some of the stronger ones. All right, guys, that's my take on it. Tell me what you think if you think differently. And again, thanks for watching, and I hope you all have an amazing day. All right, bye.